Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I have a fun fold and a technique to share with you. In fact, a couple of techniques using watercolouring. So our fun fold is an easel card and it kind of sits up like that and catches behind our little bird. And the two techniques is we're going to do a watercolor wash and we're going to use watercolor pencils here. So my stamp set and my die set that I'm featuring today are Perched in a Tree and Aspen Tree dies. Now this is a bundle and it has been in the 2022 July to December mini catalogue. And the good news is that this is actually going to be transferred or be available for sale beyond January the 5th. So it's still going to be available for you to buy. So the reason that I am attracted to this particular bundle is a die. And I know this is going to sound weird, but this is the die. And it is what I've used to cut to sort of do like a silhouette here. And the other thing that attracted me to this die set is these leaves. And these leaves are not only cut, but they actually embossed when you do the cutting, and they're just absolutely fabulous. And I have used them on a couple of other projects that I've shared on my blog. And if you follow the link below this video, it will take you to the posting for this particular card, but it'll also have links to the other two projects that I've used it for, so you can see how really versatile it is. So we're going to make a start on the watercolor wash. Now, the reason we start with that first is it does take a few minutes to dry. And I'm using the watercolor paper. It's thick and it has sort of a kind of a not a rough surface, but it's not like smooth like our regular cardstock. And so it doesn't always take a stamped image terribly well unless you use your stamp apparatus and you do repeated stampings. But it's absolutely perfect for watercoloring. So I'm going to start with my water painter, and I'm going to be using Pool Party as my colour, and this is ink. This is our ordinary classic ink, and I'm going to pop a drop onto a block. You can use a plate or something, just something that won't absorb the ink at this point. And then we're going to flood the surface of this card, this watercolor paper, with water. So I'm just gently squeezing the water out and flooding the surface of my card here. And I just need to see, yep, I've got a patch there that hasn't had any water on it. Now, because of the way that this card is produced, it's very tolerant of being wet. And if you use regular cardstock, you'll find that with it being this wet, it can start to break down and the fibers will start to pill. So I'm adding some water into my ink here, and I'm just going to swoosh across. And can you see how the flooding has allowed my ink to just, well, I'm not quite sure how to say it really, but it's smooshed. Now I don't want an even coating. I want variations on this because it's basically my sky, and that's as oh, I've got a little bit there that I haven't got, and that's as much as I need to do. Now you can see that it's curled, and why I'm going to now set it aside to dry so that hopefully by the time I'm ready for it in a few moments, it will be dry and it will also flatten as it dries. So we're just going to pop that to one side. And then we're going to get on with the other pieces. So I have done a little bit of die cutting ahead of time, but I'm going to go ahead and do my stamping. So I'm using the little bird and a scrap of card. And I'm just going to use Smoky Slate is my ink colour today. I thought it was a nice soft colour for the for the little bird. So just gently tapping, and then I'm just going to stamp down and just press firmly, give it a few moments for the ink to transfer over, and then I've got my lovely image. Now while I've got my ink out, I'm going to do my greeting. Now on this card, I used one of the greetings from the stamp set, Let Heaven and Nature Sing. But I thought I would do this one slightly differently, and I'd make a birthday card out of this one. So you can see that these cards, you know, these designs, they can be used for more than one occasion. You just really have to just kind of change the greeting out. And then I'm using my Label Me Fancy punch, and I'm just gonna punch that out like that. All right, so while I've got my ink out, I'm going to go ahead and do my envelope. I do like to decorate out my envelopes, and I am just going to, I'm just trying to find a scrap of paper so I don't on my workbench, but hey, we'll work with what we get. Let's pop him there like that. So that's my decoration there. And then inside we've got our little bird, as I said, but he needs a branch to sit on. So I've got a 1/4 sheet of cardstock here, and I'm just going to use the little branch stamp to pop that in. And I want to have it fairly low down, so I've got room for my little bird to sit above and still allow some time to write my greeting, my to you, love from me, up there. And I think that is all my stamping for now, so we can put the dangerous ink away. I call it dangerous because more often than not, if I leave it open, I'm going to put a piece of something I'm working on it and get ink where I don't want it, or I end up with getting it on my hands or my elbows or something equally as annoying. So I'm going to use my watercolor pencils along with a blending brush. Blender pen. Now these pencils are available in sets of 10s, and they match up with Stampin' Up's colors. So I'm using Basic Grey, and I'm also using Bermuda Bay. Now when I have my pencils, when I use my pencils, I don't like to have them really sharp. I like to have a bit of a flat tip to them. I don't know if you can see that. It's asking rather a lot of the camera. But I find that by doing that, it gives you sort of a better coverage, but it also gives you a softer effect. If it's too sharp, I found that it gives you like a really harsh line that's difficult to blend out. So there's my little chest, and I'm just going to give him a blue eye. And then I'm going to do the rest of him in the basic grey. Now I'm using Pool Party as my colours, but there isn't a Pool Party watercolour pencil. So the closest is the Bermuda Bay. And then the closest for a grey is the basic grey. But if you see, I'm using quite a light touch, so it's not going to be too strong. So I kind of just doing like a little circular motion, and you can see that some of the lines are showing, and that's where the blender pen really comes into its own, because I need to work fast, but it actually blends out, it smooshes out. There's a lot of smooshing in this card. It smooshes out the lines and gives you a much better finish. Now, you don't want to spend too much time on this, because this is ordinary cardstock, and if it gets too wet, it will break the fibers down and start to pill. So I'm working very, very quickly. I'm also using our regular ink. Normally when you're doing watercoloring, you would want to use an ink for your stamped image that is a solvent-based one, which is our StazOn. But I didn't want that harsh outline. I wanted a nice soft outline. And if I work quickly, which I've done here, then it doesn't start to make the classic ink outline start to sort of bleed. And you can see we've got a really nice finish there. And he's one cute little bird. Now, to clean my little bird, my pen, all I do is set it on the side and just gently rub it until it runs clear. And although it's a little bit discoloured here, it's not going to affect the performance, and it's not going to discolour anything if you use a different colour. Right, now I was going to, and I've got one here, to use some Wink of Stella on this. If you've not used Wink of Stella, it's a liquid glitter, and it just gives a very subtle, well, this one does, gives a very subtle sheen to my dear sweet little bird here. There he is. I don't know if you can just see if it's just catching the light. All right, now we can go ahead and do some cutting. So I'm going to bring in my cut and emboss machine. And for this one, I'm going to be using my white base plate. That's my number 1. Then I'm going to be using the adapter, which is number 2. And then I'm going to use 2 plates. These are the number 3, and I'm going to use one at the base. And then I'm going to put my paper down and my die. And I'm just going to line him up. And I've got this magic tape. that helps keep everything in place. It's like a sticky note that is a sticky note all over. It's actually tacky all over, and it doesn't stick to the die after it's been through, and it doesn't stick to the paper. So I'm just gently going to crank that through. And I should have my sweet little bird. There he is. Isn't he just so cute? Love him. All right, so I'm going to set that to one side, and now I'm going to use the other die. Now, this is a 1/4 sheet of cardstock. It measures 5 1/4 by 4, and you're going to be positioning this dead center of the card, and that's because we're going to be sort of keeping, if you like, the outline, and the bits that come out are the bits that we throw away. So I'm going to just line that up and center it, make sure that it's kind of in the right direction, north and south. And then we're going to go and get some more, get this little sticky notes paper here. It's called Heffy Doodle, and I got it online from scrapbook.com, I believe. And I just want you to know that I don't get anything for recommending products there. It's just something I found that was recommended to me by my friend Ellie in the UK. She's used it for a long time and found it really, really good. Okay, so I'm not cranking ever so fast because I want to make sure that the die has been able to cut through. And if I turn over, you can see that I've got all lovely cuts. So I'm happy with that. All right, so we're just, and this you can use several times. It's not like a one and done, and you can use it until such time as it kind of falls apart. Okay, so we just lose out these little pieces. Can you see how easily they come out? And there's a piece there that's just being a little bit troublesome, and another one there. But there, we've got our pieces out and ready. Now I'm just going to check on my piece of watercolor paper. Here it is. And you can see that it's flattened out. It's also still got a little bit of excess water on it. So I'm just going to damp that corner a tiny weeny bit just to get rid of it. And it's nearly dry. It's just a tiny weeny bit, if you like. I can just feel a tiny bit of dampness. So I'm going to set it to one side so that I can get the other bits of my card working. So this is my base card, and I chose Night of Navy, and it's 11 by 4 1/4, and I scored it at 5 1/2 and 2 3/4. So I'm going to fold this piece in, and I've lost my bone folder, so we'll just use a pair of scissors for now. And then this other piece here, I'm also going to fold in. So that's how we get the easel part. While I'm here, I'm gonna stick the liner in and just how I've got a small margin there, and get that all smoothed out. So that goes like that, and my little bird is going to go here eventually. Now I've already pre-cut my leaves just to save a little bit of time, and I use Coastal Cabana and Cherry Cobbler, and then this is the silver metallic pack, and I just cut a leaf out of an odd scrap. Okay, I think the time has come to check out this final piece. Yep, I think it's okay. It's looking good. It's still a little bit damp, but I don't think that's going to cause us any harm. So this piece here is exactly the same size. Well, not quite. I'm going to have to do a tiny little bit of trimming, but that's fine. No problem. And I'm going to use my liquid adhesive again. And I'm going to just keep it sort of to the corners like this. And I'm going to add a few dots just to the tree trunks, just to make sure that they're held in place and don't sort of flop. I think that's enough. Now, I prefer to use the wet glue here because I found that using the Stampin' Seal isn't quite strong enough to hold this paper. This paper is really quite, this watercolor paper is quite hefty, and so I found that you need just some adhesive with just a little bit more strength to it. So there, I've just trimmed off that piece. Now I've got my next layer. Now this is a quarter sheet, which is 5.5 by 4.25. And I'm going to attach that onto there. And this time I'm going to use my liquid adhesive again. And I'm going to be quite generous with it to make sure it all holds into place. Now, I've been giving you all sorts of measurements, but if you look below this video, you'll see a link to my blog, and that will take you to exactly the post that this card is on. And on there I will have what I like to call my recipes, which is the supplies and the cutting instructions and any scoring instructions that I like that I use for this card. So you'll be able to follow through with that. So I've just put a block on there for a few moments to just hold everything straight, and then we'll get on to the next part, which is some decoration and some final assembly. Now I'm decorating my card today with one of the new ribbons that's going to be available in January through the new mini that's coming out on January the 5th. It is Night of Navy, and it is lovely. It really is a beautiful ribbon. And so I'm going to do my normal trick of attaching it to my card, and I'm going to start with putting a glue dot in the middle, and then popping that to the middle, then flipping over and using some Scotch tape, sellotape, whichever part of the world you're in. I'm going to pop that there, hold that in place, and here I'm going to do the same thing. Like that. I can get rid of my other block, and then I'm going to position this card on this panel, just this panel only, because then that will then lie down flat for posting and stand up straight for displaying. Now I can use double-sided tape, the tear and tape here, or the liquid, and I'm going to use liquid again, partly because I've put my double-sided tape somewhere and I can't find it. And we're going to line up the bottom of this with the bottom of the base card, and it should line up and it fit exactly, because this is a quarter sheet going on to a half sheet that's been folded to make a quarter of a sheet. And I'm going to leave that there like that just for a few moments, just to set up. So we've got our decorative pieces. So I've got my leaves, and I've got a little twist of ribbon to make it look like a faux bow. Can you see these dies? Can you see how lovely how the embossing is in there as well? They're just so gorgeous. They're lovely. So we're just going to pop these together. I might use just a little bit of a liquid adhesive, or I could use a glue dot, whichever works. So I'm going to pop one and the other one. Like that. And then I'm going to tuck this underneath. Well, sort of the stems underneath and the leaf just sort of on the top. Then I've got a little knot of this ribbon, and I call it a faux knot, and I have videos on how I do these knots, but basically it just reduces the amount of ribbon that you use and the bulk. And since I send a lot of my cards overseas, it reduces the cost to pop them in the post. So I'm just going to pop my greeting here, and I'm just going to pop that up on some Stampin' Dimensionals like that. And now we've got our little birdie. So we want to put the bird so that his little feet are on the branch like that. And this has got to hold up our easel part. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some double dimensionaling. So I'm going to put 3 dimensionals down like this. Then I'm going to take the back off each one. And then I'm going to put another one on top. And you can line them up or just sort of plop them down because they're not going to be seen. And that just gives us a bit of extra height to hold the easel in. So I'm going to pop my little guy so he's sitting on his branch like that. And then my card's going to come over. And there we are. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed this video. I've certainly enjoyed sharing these two watercolor techniques as well as this special fold. If you have enjoyed the video, perhaps you'll go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you don't already subscribe to my channel, perhaps you'll go ahead and do that as well. And I'd love to read any comments that you have. So thank you very much for joining me today. I truly appreciate you spending time with me. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye for now.